Imagine you wake before dawn, not with ease, but to the sound of a harsh voice, or the sting of a stick on the wooden door. You do not sleep on a bed. Perhaps you have a mat in the corner of a storeroom, or no mat at all, just straw and the scent of wine residue, mildew, and oil. You are a familia servorum, a house slave in a Roman villa, owned, trained, controlled, and your day is already late. There is no breakfast for you, no pause. You move through the dim corridors of the villa, lit only by oil lamps, your sandals, if you have them, worn thin. The mistress wants warm water, the master, wine and news. The atrium must be swept before guests arrive. Marble has no patience for dust. Bronze must gleam. Silver must sparkle. Your hands never stop. You dress your masters in tunics you will later scrub clean. You carry jugs heavier than a child, bend over hot braziers, and kneel on tile floors until your knees bruise. You clean, cook, polish, and pour. You may be a kitchen slave, inhaling the thick smoke of roasting meat, or a body slave, brushing hair, adjusting jewelry, standing silently while the lady complains to friends about your clumsiness. You do not speak unless spoken to. Sometimes you are whipped. For mistakes, for delays, for bad moods you had no part in. You memorize your master's moods, the secret signals of your fellow slaves, the routes that let you move silently. Sometimes you are sold. Without notice, without farewell, you might be shipped to a different city, another villa, a field, or worse, a mine. You'll belong to someone else, in body, in law, in every waking moment. You remember the rhythms, and yet you know which jars crack, which floorboards creak, which child cries at night. You survive by knowing, watching, enduring, because there is no escape. Not really. And if you did, where would you go? There is no outside. The villa is the world. And even when you lie down again at night, aching, silent, alone, there is no rest. Only the slow, ceaseless turning of another day. In service, in silence. Welcome. Tonight, we descend the marble steps of ancient Rome. Not as senators or emperors, not as poets but as those whose names were never carved in stone. This is not the Rome of triumphal arches and golden eagles. It is the Rome of the shadowed corridors, the back rooms, the endless labor, a system vast, complex, and woven into every aspect of Roman life, yet seldom remembered by name. For this journey, we turn our eyes to those whose backs built the empire, the slaves of Rome. We will begin with the ordinary grind, the life of a house slave in a wealthy Roman villa, where luxury is built on exhaustion. Then, we rise with rebellion, Spartacus, and the desperate, ferocious revolt that shook Rome's confidence. Afterward, we turn to the silence of ash, to the frozen world of Pompeii, where archaeology lets us see what history ignored. And finally, we visit the feasting elite, the other side of the coin. Wine, fountains, peacock, tongues, and silk, all of it, built on someone else's labor, to the quiet voices beneath the empire. So now, settle in, let the world grow still, and listen.
Now let us shift our gaze, from the villa to the arena, from the silence of service to the crackling tension of rebellion. And there in the middle of the dust and blood stands a man named Spartacus. There was the man, but before the legend. He was not born a gladiator, he was a soldier, a Thracian. From the rugged lands to the northeast of Greece, where warriors rode beneath wild skies and tribal loyalties ran deep. Captured by Rome, likely during one of its countless conquests, Spartacus was enslaved and trained to fight. He was brought to the Ludus Gladiatorius, the gladiator school in Capua. There, men were taught to kill for the entertainment of others, not with freedom as reward, but with survival as routine. Imagine the training yard, dusty, enclosed by high wooden walls. The clang of wooden swords against shields, the grunts of exhausted bodies drilled past endurance. Some men dreamed only of applause, but Spartacus? He dreamed of escape. In 73 BCE, he led a breakout, not with an army, just about 70 slaves. They stole kitchen knives, seized wagons, and disappeared into the countryside. But this was no simple flight. It grew, chose when to fight and when to flee. He defeated Roman legions, not once, but repeatedly. The fugitives found others, shepherds, field laborers, miners, criminals, men with nothing left to lose. Women and children joined them, and before long, the rebellion swelled to thousands. Rome laughed at first, then it panicked. Spartacus was no brute. He was strategic. He trained his followers. They tried to trap him in the south. He broke free. They tried to surround him in the mountains. He vanished. But many would not follow. They wanted revenge, not retreat. They wanted Rome to suffer as they had. For 2 years, the rebellion moved like a shadow. He died sword in hand, surrounded by the fallen. But Spartacus did not want to burn Rome. He wanted out. He tried to lead his people north to the Alps. Freedom lay beyond. The rebellion splintered, and Rome grew angry. Under Crassus, one of Rome's wealthiest men, a brutal campaign began. The legions grew disciplined, ruthless. Eventually, Spartacus found himself cornered. No escape, only one last battle. His body was never found. In the aftermath, Rome crucified 6,000 rebels along the Appian Way. A grim warning etched in wood and flesh. The revolt had failed. But something had shifted. Rome had been shaken, not by kings, not by generals, but by slaves. And Spartacus remained. Not as a conqueror, but as a whisper that even the lowliest could rise. For a moment, and remind the empire of its foundation.
Let us now travel south, to a city frozen in time, Pompeii. When Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 CE, it buried the city beneath layers of ash and pumice, preserving homes, shops, frescoes, and silence. For centuries, that silence remained unbroken. But when excavations began in the 18th and 19th centuries, something remarkable emerged. The details of daily Roman life, captured mid-movement, mid-meal, and among the mosaics and marketplaces, the villas and taverns, archaeologists uncovered faint traces of those who had no names. The slaves of Pompeii, and yet invisible. Spaces not designed for rest, but for waiting, for readiness. They tended fountains, prepared feasts, warmed bath water, and carried their masters' litters through crowded lanes. We see them in the cramped service corridors that run behind grand atriums, barely shoulder wide, leading to tiny windowless rooms. We find their presence in tools, worn handles of kitchen knives, amphorae stacked in basements, carts half-loaded in stables, but not their stories. In a villa's back corner, a skeleton was found chained to a wall, left behind as ash filled the streets. They were the cooks, the stable hands, the torchbearers, the nursemaids, the scribes, and a chest containing metal harnesses. Maybe the best preserved example of a slave dormitory in the Roman world. Some were born into servitude, others taken as war spoils. Many were young, most would never be free. The ash preserved their work, and yet archaeology gently restores fragments of their world. At the Grand Villa of the Mysteries, beautifully preserved frescoes line the dining room. Images of Dionysian rituals, luxury, wine, just function, and waiting. But behind the walls, behind the marble, are narrow slave quarters, dark and close. The contrast is startling. A recent discovery, a small room with 3 wooden beds, a chamber pot, no decoration, no personal items. One, believed to be a young slave girl, was found clutching a bronze key in a cloth bundle, likely holding her master's valuables. Even in catastrophe, she was expected to serve. Even in death, their status lingered. Some of the plaster casts created from body-shaped voids, and the ash to pick servants, huddled, carrying baskets, or reaching for their charges. Yet here they are, preserved by tragedy, not named in triumphs, not listed in records, but present. The forgotten hands that made Rome's luxury possible, caught in a moment of final stillness, and remembered, at last. Let us end our journey where the marble gleams, where perfume lingers in the air, and where sandals never touch dirt. Welcome to the world of the Roman elite. Here, in the villas of senators and patricians, life was not defined by survival, but by performance. Imagine walking into a triclinium, the Roman dining room. The walls are covered in frescoes, gods reclining, grapes overflowing from golden bowls, nymphs dancing through painted gardens. A long couch curves around a polished table. Guests recline on embroidered cushions, one elbow resting, the other hand holding a glass cup carved from translucent glass, tinted blue. The feast begins, not with food, but with spectacle. Dishes are passed, honey-roasted dormice, oysters seasoned with garum, peacock tongues glazed in cinnamon. Servants move quietly, pouring Felonian wine, vintage and strong. A slave boy fans the air with peacock feathers, while another mists the room with rose water. The host does not eat first. He speaks first. Perhaps poetry, perhaps politics. All watched closely. Status is theater here. Roman engineers even devised systems to circulate cool air through pipes. Wealth as comfort, crafted in... The women wear layers of stole in deep indigos and saffrons, fastened with brooches of gold and jet. Time, freedom from labor, the knowledge that someone else is always working on your behalf. Dishes untouched, wines dilute, conversations more important than consumption. Their hair is coiled high, perfumed, pinned with ivory combs imported from faraway lands. A nod to tradition and to order. Between courses, musicians play soft lyre melodies. Dancers, hired from the east, perform slow, fluid movements in silk veils. In the courtyard beyond, a fountain trickles, part of a carefully designed garden or hortus, shaded with vines, cooled with engineered breeze channels. Their fashion is deliberate. The men wear crisp togas of white wool, freshly laundered, an expensive luxury. Their wealth is not just in objects, it is in leisure. And while the food may overflow, the feasts were often for show. They speak of politics, theater, the latest shipment from Alexandria. They quote Cicero. All the while, dozens of eyes are watching, the invisible staff that keeps the illusion running. Slaves standing behind pillars, ready to refill a cup or adjust a robe. These gatherings did not end in revelry. They ended with ceremony. Offerings to the household gods, often placed at small shrines near the entrance. This was Rome's elite, polished, practiced, purposeful. And while their lives seem distant, it is their shadows that linger longest in stone and scroll. But even this splendor rested on fragile things. Conquest, control, cruelty. So as the last cup is drained and the harp falls quiet, we step out of the villa, leaving its cool shade behind. And remember that every fountain flowed from someone else's well. So now, let the noise of Rome fall away. Let the shouts of the marketplace, the clatter of chariots, the heavy breathing of the mines fade. We have walked through four corners of the empire, the back halls of villas, the blood-soaked sands of rebellion, the silence of Pompeii's ash, and the engineered calm of luxury gardens. And through it all, the pulse of the Roman world beat steadily. Through hands unseen, the empire was vast, but it was not equal. And now, as your breath grows slow and the night deepens, let the stories of these forgotten voices settle quietly in your mind. You are not in the villa. You are not in the kitchen. You are here, safe, still, free. Let sleep come, and let the empire rest. Good night.